A trans woman who won't take a gay man's no for an answer, a cop whose woke friend won't stop insulting him, and getting canceled from your roller derby team for having common sense. All this and so much more is coming up on today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, our daily show where we take on the craziest ideas from across the internet, our media, and our politics, all from an independent perspective. On Fridays, I take your voicemails and hear about your personal life situations and scenarios and woke horror stories. The link to send in one of those voicemails is in the description. But we have so many crazy things to hear and talk about today that let's just get straight into it and hear from one gay man who's had an interesting experience on the gay dating app. I guess I'll call it Grindr. Let's take a listen.
Okay, so this happened a couple months ago, but I was on a gay dating app. I'm sure you could probably guess which one I'm talking about. But I got a message from a trans girl basically asking me to hang out, and I was like, "Hey, like you're really pretty, but I'm only into guys. Sorry, like I'm on a gay dating app. Like why would I be, whatever." And she's like, "Oh, well, I think you should try it, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "No, like I don't think I should. Like I kind of already like, no, I'm not gonna, whatever." And then eventually she goes on and says, "Oh, well, I'm trans, so it's basically the same thing as being with a guy." And I'm like, "No, it's really not." And then she continues to say like, "Oh, well, I have a penis, if that helps." And then finally I'm like, "No, leave me alone." And then she finally ended off by calling me transphobic. And I don't understand how, and obviously not all trans women, but a lot of them, um, on this app at least, want to be viewed as women, but don't view themselves as women, and it's very odd.
Yes, my friend. Sounds like a strange experience. You're definitely not transphobic in any sort of like hateful or bigoted sense just because you weren't interested in this person. You don't actually have to be interested in anyone. This is such a strange concept to me when like woke types will say things like genital preferences are transphobic or otherwise try to like problematize a lack of romantic or sexual interest in someone. The whole thing comes off as creepy and predatorial, and normal people don't need to like shame or bully people into being into them. Lots of trans women have plenty of suitors, I can tell you that, and they don't need to like try to bully people into wanting to hang out with them, since we're keeping it euphemistic and family friendly, I suppose. But look, it is funny, the math is not mathing. If you are a trans woman and you actually believe you are a woman, why would you say it's basically the same thing and try to get with gay guys? Clearly, there's some internal inconsistency going on there. Now, I understand that to some extent, websites like Grindr or whatever have become kind of queer spaces where it's more than just gay men, even though it's predominantly just gay men. And maybe they're trying to go there to meet some people who are interested in it. And at the end of the day, okay, fine by me, I guess. But why wouldn't you just go after and talk to the people who actually are interested and who do reciprocate? What is it with trying to like harass or shame someone into reciprocating? I have never had this in my, I'm thankful I've been off the market for quite a long time because my dating experiences were unpleasant, being outspoken with right of center political beliefs in the Washington DC gay community. Trust me, it wasn't a fun time, but I've been off the market for a long time. But I never had to try to like convince someone to want to date me or hang out with me. Like if they were not interested, I would keep it moving. There's something very insecure about that. That's almost sad in a way. It sounds like this person is very insecure, and that's unfortunate. But at the same time, like we do have to talk about the fact that some of the more extreme woke stuff in the LGBT community is almost like infringing upon on gay men. I mean, you literally have activist organizations declaring homosexuality an offensive term and trying to redefine gay to be, like about gender identity when no, it is about biology largely. I mean, not exclusively, because even in this example, a trans woman is a biological male, but when they present so feminine, it's natural you wouldn't be attracted to that. I guess I just come back to the simple principle. it is creepy and slightly predatory to try to no, I take away the slightly and just predatory to try to like bully people into dating you. Whether you're trans, whether you're not, whether you're gay, whether you're straight, don't do that. Don't be weird. That's like not too much to ask for society. It's really not. Guys, if you want to send in a voice note with your horror story or personal life situation that you want my thoughts on for me to potentially respond to in an upcoming episode, the link is in the description. Also, check out my merch, check out my second channel where I post exclusive bonus content. And we're going to hear a really sad story from a police officer whose woke friend is just terrible to him after this. Guys, I've had threats sent to my home before, so I understand better than anyone how important it is to get your personal information off the internet. That's why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, Aura. If you've ever wondered how spammers get your phone number or why your email inbox is flooded with spam, well, here's why. There are companies called data brokers that sell your data. They do it without your consent, and they make millions selling it to marketers, scammers, and even stalkers. And while they're legally required to move your information if you ask, they make the process confusing and hard on purpose. That's why I recommend today's sponsor, Aura, to my family and friends. They take care of the hard part, automatically removing your information from all of these sites and keeping it off. I use Aura to get my address taken off the internet so it's harder for haters to harass me and to decrease the endless robocalls and spam emails. And you can too. Plus, if anything does happen, Aura includes $5 million in identity theft insurance protection, and they have US fraud experts ready to help 24/7. Try Aura for 14 days for free at aura.com/Polumbo. In those 2 weeks, you'll discover where your data is being sold. I'm not leaving myself vulnerable, and you shouldn't either. Okay, guys, now let's get into our next voicemail from a police officer whose woke friend really is being pretty unkind to him. Let's take a listen.
Hi, Brad. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I really love your show. For some context, I'm in law enforcement. I am fairly conservative on some things, pretty liberal on others. Try to just follow my heart. And I have a friend who is deep in the liberal bubble. And we've been friends for years, share a lot of interests. So I try to keep him in my life. But a few weeks ago, he asked me a little bit about what it's like to be a cop. So I told him, bared my soul a bit. Told him a bit about the anguish that we all went through in 2020. And then a few days later, he posted a meme of someone throwing the thin blue line flag into the garbage. Now, that flag means a lot to people like me. It's not just about support for police officers. It's about remembering our fallen brothers and sisters. So when I saw that, I thought, well, what would he think if I told him the pride flag belonged in the garbage? So I'm, getting ready to burn that bridge pretty hard. So not so much looking for advice, so much as commiseration with you and your fellow listeners about just to see him put that after he asked me about what it's like to be a cop, and after listening to me bare my soul and share my pain, that was pretty hard. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, man. Thank you for sharing your story with us. And I'm really sorry you had that experience, but thank you for your service. I really, we can talk about criminal justice reform and police reform and different things, but I will always appreciate the hardworking men and women who put their lives on the line to keep us safe and maintain the rule of law. So thank you for doing that and for being a part of that. And yeah, I mean, people are free to criticize the police, criticize our system of law enforcement in America, but to do it in this kind of distasteful way is not great, especially in the context of having a friend who's a police officer who you just talked to. I guess the only thing I would offer, though, is the thin blue line flag. Maybe if I was to try to give your friend the benefit of the doubt, they don't realize that that flag stands for, in the minds of law enforcement, fallen officers, and they think it's just like a political symbol or an anti-criminal justice reform symbol or something like that. So I would maybe reach out to your friend and communicate with them and say, like, listen, maybe you didn't know this, but this flag to us represents fallen police officers who've lost their lives in the line of duty, keeping people safe. And to see you share a meme like this, it really hurt me. And it made me feel like you don't respect or value my profession and the sacrifices that people in my line of work make. And I would give your friend a chance to respond to that, because I think there is a scenario where maybe they just didn't think about it and just hit share, or they didn't really know what that flag stands for. And if your friend, their politics aside, is a good person, I imagine that they would apologize and take down the post, and maybe you could have a productive conversation about it. But if not, then maybe you're right. Maybe it is time to burn that bridge, because you shouldn't have to have friendships or relationships with people who show like pretty blatant disrespect to you and to your life's work. And trust me, there's a lot of people out there who will think positively of you for what you do, rather than look down upon you or judge you or shade you in Facebook memes. But thank you again, and thank you for sharing with us on the show. Up next, we're going to hear from somebody who got canceled from her roller derby team for the dumbest reason imaginable.
This is my cancel culture story as an independent. Back in March 2023, during all of the trans swimmer drama on Facebook, I made a public post on my personal page with a picture of Leah Thomas that simply said, "I see both sides," and had a heart emoji. There were some comments that could be considered anti-trans women and girls sports, and my responses to those comments were all very respectful and middle of the road. I pride myself on being kind to people on both sides of any issue, and I can generally see both sides of any issue. A few months later, I was told to resign from my roller derby team, and here's the message that the coach sent to the rest of the team. She initiated a post that resulted in transphobic comments. While she herself did not make the comments, she allowed them to remain on her post. Due to this post, her involvement with the team has deeply hurt our relationship with skaters and officials within the derby community. It was a very hard decision and a responsibility we did not take lightly. So that's my cancel culture story. It was crazy. I was shocked. Also, my 13-year-old always asks to watch your videos, and he calls you his zesty bestie. Thanks, Brad.
I love that. That's really funny, actually. But, oh gosh, what a wild story. It caused deep harm to members of our community. How? It's a post with comments on it. They know they can log off, right? They know they don't have to look at it. This is just so insane for so many reasons, because first of all, you would have been well within your rights as a woman to post not just some kind of neutral, anodyne, I see both sides post, which is totally fine, right? You're entitled to that view. But if you had come out full-throated and said, Leah Thomas is a biological male who doesn't belong in women's swimming, that's a totally valid mainstream opinion that is not inherently hateful or disrespectful, doesn't cause anyone harm or make them unsafe. And you have every right to post that, and you shouldn't be kicked out of a group or a team for it. It's just ridiculous. And the fact that they are blaming you for what people wrote in your comment section is also like just vaguely Orwellian, because you're not responsible for other people's words. If people applied that logic to me, I would be cooked. Chat, I would be cooked, because people write crazy stuff from either extreme in my comments all the time. And that's not on me. I don't co-sign. I don't endorse. It's just a space where they can speak. And like blaming people for other people's speech isn't fair. And regardless, you did absolutely nothing wrong. And these people need to wake up. They need to get with the moment, because this is not flying. The culture is moving away from this, I hope. But in some liberal spaces and liberal bubbles, it isn't. I mean, I don't want to rehash a story I've told a bunch of times on the podcast, but I got like excommunicated from a gay men's soccer club in DC many years back now. I guess it would have been 6 or 7 years ago, because I was against minors medically transitioning. And they said that made my participation in the team, because I held that viewpoint, which I never actually talked about at soccer practice, made hypothetical future transgender members unsafe. I mean, that's such a series of logical leaps. It's such a deeply closed-minded and frankly bigoted worldview that I hardly can even wrap my head around it. But what I can say is that people who've fallen victim to that kind of toxic thinking, we're better off without them in our lives. And hopefully you're able to find a new team that accepts you. Ironically for me, I ended up playing on a team after that of exclusively straight men, and they had no problem accepting me. So that's the world we live in. But I think things are getting a little better on that culture front, and that the forces of cancel culture like this are waning a little bit, but sorry you had to go through that, my friend. I really am. Okay, up next. You thought American college campuses were bad with the woke insanity and kind of safe space nonsense. Well, let's hear about a Canadian college. And spoiler alert, it's worse.
Hi, Brad. This is Kate. I'm working for a college in Canada. After last year, my college really doubled down on the woke ideology, especially safetyism for the student. You cannot organize any event without them fearing hurting or traumatizing the students. You cannot let the students have fun with a water gun because you risk uh, traumatizing student with the memory of wars. You cannot promote a Christmas dinner from the church because you risk traumatizing and offending Muslim and non-Christian students. You cannot even let the student like stand in line or like watching a 10 minutes video before a session because you risk adding stress to the students. I would like to know what you think about this because I think that we are setting the student up for failure. Mind you, college student, if we keep wrapping them in bubbles and treat them as like 5 years olds like this.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's funny, at the end of the message, you made the exact point that my mind was going to. The whole point of college is supposed to be preparing young adults for the workforce, for adult life, like this transition period from when they're a teenager and they live at home to, being a 20 something and having your own job and your own apartment and paying your bills and starting your career. But instead, it's turned into like, honestly, in many ways, more infantilizing than high schools are. High schools expect more out of their 16 and 17-year-olds than many colleges expect out of their 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. Like they coddle them and handhold them and baby them even more than we do with actual minors. And it's insane, not just because I personally, when I went through it, my college was like that. I found it like insulting because I'm like, I'm a grown adult. I don't need you to treat me like this. Like, go away and stop. But also, it's setting them up for failure because the real world is not a safe space. The real world might involve standing in line for 10 minutes or seeing people play with water guns. And if you can't handle that, you're not prepared to exist. You are literally not prepared to exist. And I don't even say that to be unkind, but you belong in like remedial emotional cognitive behavioral therapy. And again, I'm not saying that as an insult. I'm saying that as like a truism, a statement of how you need to help yourself because it's a you problem. It's not a problem the world is ever going to shift and accommodate. It's something you have to get up to speed on, but it's also not even true for most young people. Like they don't need this level of safetyism. I know a lot of them got participation trophies growing up and a lot of them were coddled, but even then they can handle more than this. Like it is absurd. It is pathetic. And, I don't know what college you work at, but to the extent it happens at public colleges across America, I really think it's something that should be reined in by the government. Because if our tax dollars are going to fund these institutions, we have every right to demand that they actually function in a semi-coherent or competent manner. And right now, at least, we can't say that, at least not with a whole lot of confidence across the board. But thank you for your message, and hopefully you can do your small part inside the system to make things a little better with whatever power you have. Guys, if you're enjoying this episode, remember to hit that like button. Remember to subscribe if you haven't yet. Remember, you can send in your voice note with your woke horror story or your personal life experience at the link in the description. Up next, we're going to hear about a crazy experience someone had at their College Republicans Club meeting. Let's take a listen.
Hi, Brad. I hope you take woke right horror stories because I went to my college's conservative club, and essentially what happened is the president of the club was being really coy about his immigration position. He kept like saying, oh, I don't want to talk about it. He would like make gestures, and you obviously know because it's a Republicans club that they believe, they're anti-immigration generally. But this guy was being super coy about it, and so eventually, like, I talked to him. I go up after a club meeting, and I'm like, so what's your position on immigration? The president, I feel like it's kind of an important thing. It's kind of weird how you're speaking about it. And he's like, oh, well, I just, I have certain views that are kind of controversial. And I'm like, oh, what is your immigration position? It can't be that bad, And he's like, oh, I just believe this country, is founded by white Christian men, and I think America should be a country for white Christian men. And I'm like, wait, what? Because this is a pretty diverse club. Like, it's not like it's just white guys in this room. There was a black woman there. There was an Indian guy. I mean, it's like it's a diverse club, and so the idea that he wants America to be white and Christian is insane. Um, so I just thought that was insane. I can't believe these people actually exist.
Yeah, so it sounds like you've encountered a groiper in real life. One of these like alt-right Pepe the Frog people, but to me, I've never had any time for that kind of reactionary far-right view because it's just identity politics. It's just right-wing identity politics. First off, parts of it are just like conceptually flawed. I mean, there have been non-white people in America since basically the very beginning, and regardless, white people is not a meaningfully coherent, distinct category. There's all sorts of different kinds of people who are part of that now who weren't. And there's people who were originally considered not white who are now considered white, like Irish and beyond. So it's just not a meaningful distinction. In the same way, America is definitely based in Judeo-Christian values in some ways in our history and in our political system, but we're also very clearly from the very beginning founded on the idea of religious freedom, meaning that America was explicitly meant to be a country without one established religion. It's in the First Amendment for a reason. So to say, this is a country for white men, Christian men, is just like you're saying you totally disagree with the founders' vision of the country then. Also, what about the women? You're just leaving out half the population there, I guess? I don't know. And yeah, I mean, I can't say I'm shocked because that kind of reactionary viewpoint is on the rise. And I don't think this person should have to be so coy about it. Like, if that's your view, say it with your full chest. I don't know. I don't really respect that either. If you're going to have a hot take, have a hot take. But I mean, fair on you for calling them out and saying, like, listen, you're in charge of the club. We should know what you think about these issues because it's one of the top issues defining Republican politics today. But yeah, I mean, I can't say I'm shocked that you're starting to encounter this stuff in real life because it has been on the rise on the right. But I think it's a little bit of well, not even a little bit. I think it's a huge overreaction. I think it's a pendulum swing from the toxic identity politics of the left that at times have even been like anti-men, anti-white, anti-Christian. Well, now that some people, I guess, are swinging so far in the opposite direction, they need to think that like, oh, we're pro-man, pro-white, we're only, these things. And no, the truth is to just reject all the identity politics. We're all Americans. We all have the same rights. It's a country for all of us. And all that stuff should not be the defining ethos or how we treat or mistreat people. But yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised, like I said, that you're starting to encounter this stuff because it is a rising strain of reactionary thought on the right. And I'm against it, but not everybody listens to me, much to my chagrin, right? But thank you for sharing and thank you for your story. And yeah, a lot of these guys are like woke horror stories about the left because that's just what a lot of people in my audience have encountered, but I'm open to all sorts of stories and it doesn't have to have one certain political slant. Up next, we're going to hear from one person who encountered woke pseudoscience in their very own medical treatment. Let's take a listen.
Hey Brad, my name is Fox, and I love your content. I'm a trans guy, kind of irrelevant, but whatever. Basically, I was listening to your segment today, and you had mentioned about activists infiltrating like medical situations, and I wanted to tell you a story about my doctor and my therapist are both two women, and they're married, which is not an issue, obviously, but I think that that's interesting. Between the doctor's office, when I went in one time and I tried to get on the scale to weigh myself, and the nurse's assistant was like, "Oh, you don't have to get on the scale. We don't make people weigh themselves anymore because it makes them upset." And I was like, "But it's a vital like health marker." And she was like, "Yeah, don't worry about it. You don't have to weigh yourself." And I was like, "Okay." And then another time when I was speaking to my therapist, I was trying to talk to her about my eating disorder because I struggled with like binge eating in the past and stuff, and still something I struggle with. And she looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Have you ever heard about health at every size?" And I'm needless to say, I don't go to that therapist anymore. But I just thought it was interesting, the cross section of like the queer identity and like the fat acceptance, like in, you know, those spaces. I don't know. Just thought it might be interesting, and might find it interesting. I love your show. Keep up the good work. Talk to you later.
Well, thank you for your note and for your support. Yes, this story is very interesting to me for so many reasons because I am very concerned about the infiltration of like wokeness and activism into medicine because I mean, we're talking about matters of life and death. Obesity related illnesses and the resulting deaths from it are one of the leading causes of preventable deaths in America. But you have this body positivity kind of pseudoscience about like, oh, we can't weigh people, that causes stigma, or you can be healthy at any size. I mean, it's possible, but unlikely. I mean, there is very real science about how lots of extra fat on your body causes lots of health issues. It's just uncontroversial fact and established science that is denied in the pursuit of activism and ideology. And I'm so glad you're not seeing that therapist anymore because clearly, this is not a serious professional. This is somebody compromised by ideology. But I'm really concerned about this because when it comes to matters of life and death, keep the woke shit out of it. Go do that in your art seminar or whatever. Or if you want to be like a magazine writer or something, keep it out of the doctor's office where people need cold, hard facts. They need reality. They need truth. They don't need to feel always amazing on the inside. Now, of course, it should go without saying that you should be kind to people. You shouldn't body shame or mock or belittle people. But at the same time, it is not kind to lie to them and tell them it's fine that you're 400 pounds. You can be healthy at any size. Yeah, great. They'll feel real nice until they have a heart attack at 32 and keel over. Seriously, like, I don't know how anyone ever fell for the lie that is compassionate, that is kind. I actually think it's profoundly, profoundly cruel and unkind to lie about this kind of thing and to push this kind of thing on people. But it's a real problem. I mean, there's still so many good doctors. My partner's a doctor. So many of his peers, they're not, ideological. They're just doing good work and doing their best. But there is this infiltration in some parts of medical education and medical providers. And it's really hard to know how widespread it is. But to the extent that it's out there and it's growing, it's a very real problem that we've got to stamp out because you can't compromise people's health. Keep the ideology. Keep it out of that. That really shouldn't be too much to ask. But thank you for sharing your story. And yeah, you guys let me know if you've encountered similar stuff. All right, everybody, that'll be it for this episode of the Brad versus Everyone podcast. Let me know what you think of the stories we heard about today. Let me know in the comments. And remember, you can send in your woke horror story, your personal life situation, and get my thoughts at the link in the description. Make sure you hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed, yada, yada, yada. And with that, we'll talk again real soon.